Boom, 3, 2, 1, we're live.
Hello,
fellas.
Hello, mate.
How was that?
G'day, ladies and gents. Hope you're having a fantastic evening. Robbie's my name. I'm joined here by Luke and Ryan. We're Axon Property Group. Welcome to the February edition of our live Q&A. It was the 17th of February we were on last time, fellas.
Yep.
We've had not Anzac Day, Australia Day passed us over.
We popped our Facebook Live cherry for the year.
We should be an Axon Day one day.
Well, let's give it a whirl.
Yeah. Anzac Day, Australia Day, and Axon Day, the Triple A. Hey, let us know where you're dialing in. Angie Paradise has just said, hey, friends there, thanks so much. I've got that Zoom looking well there. Otherwise, I'd have to get my Superman glasses on to try and even read the fucking chat. As you can see, we do swear every now and then, by the way. But yeah, we're here to answer all your questions about what's going on in the property space.
Send them.
This is a reasonably property-specific event, even though we've done a couple of podcasts this month that I want to pass on to you, which had nothing to do with property whatsoever. And in fact, the second lady that came on, Luke, that you joined us with, we said, oh, how'd you even find out about our podcast? She's like, oh, well, I was in some defence mums group. They were talking about how awesome the podcast is because they don't talk about property. They just talk about other stuff about being a defence spouse and being in the military and transition and whatever else. This is a bit more property-specific stuff, but if you have got, someone in there that wants us to talk about, DVA process or whatever, good news is, got something to pass on to you. I just had, so August 2021, I started my DVA process. 8.5 years after I got out. 2.5 years later, I finally had my initial liability and my permanent impairment come through. And let's just say I've stepped over the 60-point mark easily.
Yep.
So a gold card coming my way, which I'm extremely relieved about.
Yeah, mate, you can get all those injuries taken care of. Like, it's one of those things, as all veterans go through the process, it's a real space of unknown. It's a real space of uncertainty. And so when you do get that result, that comes through, it's just a huge weight off your shoulders and a huge relief. And I'm sure there's lots of you out there that have felt that already, or perhaps will feel it in the future.
It's almost like I've been part of, James has been through it, you've been through it, Dave's halfway through it, I'm doing it now, you've sort of done some stuff. So, and the dozens and dozens of clients that we've helped out that are waiting for DVA payments or started the DVA process or whatever else, is like fucking DVA's been in my head like really for the last 5 or 6 years. It's really sort of come to the fore.
Yeah.
And we've helped a bunch, 20, 30, 40 clients, help get into their own home or buy an investment property based on some compensation that they've had, from DVA.
Absolutely.
But now having gone through it, so I've been watching the race go by, but now I finally bloody crossed the finishing line myself, and I literally woke up yesterday morning in just a wave of gratitude and relief.
Yeah,
I reached out to the DVA delegate, and Alicia's her name, and I was like, thank you so much for taking care of me.
How did that make her feel, mate?
Oh, she nearly started crying.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, Robbie, no one ever rings and says thank you. I said, well, look, here's the thing, mate. I joined 34 years ago when I was 17. You extracted stuff out of my very thick and comprehensive medical file after playing footy and just doing obs course shit and whatever else for many, many years. I was a pretty active young soldier back in the day.
Had the buns to prove it to you. You had the buns to prove it.
I had the buns and guns to prove it. Yes. They're quickly making their way back. Oh, I might say. I'm now a relatively active 51-year-old, although there's no impact involved because my shoulder and my knees over there are actually fucked. But yeah, look, it was just it was so good to be able to go back to her and say, you've gone above and beyond, and I'll provide us some official feedback. They're like, you know what, we're gonna lodge an official compliment, not an official complaint. I had to reread it. I'm like, it's not a complaint, you idiot. It's a compliment. So yeah, look, there's been plenty happen over the last sort of month, but I'd love to know what's been going on in your world, team. Angie Paradise in the house. Mickey Galliner says hi. Here's another example. So Mick's recently reached out. He goes, look, I need a bit of a help with some insurance with my property and whatever else. So, as has someone else reached out. So just please make sure that you're using and abusing the client care department as much as what you need to make sure that, we can, if you bought a property with us 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, nearly, we still want to make sure that longevity of that property's been taken care of. CJ Wynn's in the house. Caitlin Wilkins says hello. Kieran Spitzer's there. Kieran, you've got something coming your way. There's something wrong with our videos online, so please get that fixed first thing in the morning.
Bettina Ryan, evening.
Dan Beeson, mate, great to speak to you yesterday. That was bloody excellent. I'm glad to know that you and Liv are doing well. And it's one of the points I wanted to pass on straight away. This is fully unscripted, as you know, but I guess if there's a bit of a lack of some of the questions coming through on the screen, we'll give you guys a bit of an insight about what it's like, what's life like in the in Axon over the last month.
Those trends that we're seeing come through too as well, because we coach 10, 20, 30 people a week, in all different parts.
We do.
I just get on.
I think you had last week off.
We'll talk about that. No, we also, we get to a snapshot of those trends that come through as well. So it's a great opportunity for us to be able to share those with you. So, whether that's market or whether we're seeing individuals, what the finance space is doing and that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah. One of the things I was speaking to Dan about, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, mate, he said, everything's fine with it. Bought 2 investment properties with us. They're both kicking ass. He knows he's got a bunch of more time left in the military, but he's just not sure about when he's going to get out, not sure where they're going to live, not sure what that looks like. I'm like, you don't need to know right now. You're safe and you're secure. You're in your married quarter over in Adelaide. You've got the families all together. I said, just embrace the moment.
Chill out.
Yeah. Be happy doing what you're doing now, and knowing full well that when that time comes where there's going to be another posting or there might be a separation from the military come your way or whatever it's going to be, you've got the team and you've got the mindset and you're going to be well equipped to be able to tackle that when it comes your way. We don't have a crystal ball. If there's known unknowns, let's put them on the plan and just know that we're going to navigate our way towards those things. I'm talking about macro and micro timelines and our sync matrix here, right? By far, the most important part of your coaching sessions with us is synchronizing what's going on in your life, the lifeline of operations, so then we can basically match what's going to occur with your property stuff and other investing areas. I'm glad we do that part. It didn't exist for the other firm that I worked with.
Yep.
I dare say with some others that aren't with Axon anymore, it probably exists with them.
Yep.
But it's so important to be able to make sure you've got a sync matrix in life. And when you do a proper sync matrix about what's going on in your life and then you match the property stuff with it, how's the relief and clarity people get?
Yeah. It's that peace of mind. People go, wow, that's the penny drop moment that we talk about. And we've said this before, that when you ask people what was the bit of the coaching session that jumped out at you the most, they always, without a doubt, say that sync matrix.
Yeah. It also is a force enabler for us as well, or a force multiplier for us as coaches. Office a word.
Office a guy. That didn't take
How
long.
many minutes are we in?
It helps me good. It helps me good when we're going through and when we're looking at people's lives and we're pulling them to pieces and we want to make sure that any action, any step that we take is safe and controlled. We need to understand what are those impacts of life decisions, whether that be postings, promotions, kids, marriages, all that sort of stuff that goes into the spin of living your fucking life. We want to make sure that we don't ever have to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And how do we do that? We identify those risks up front. We mitigate them so they become steps in the plan.
Luke's just got off a connection call. And I feel like he's still on it. This is two months in a row now. You took a phone call from one person going, well, tell me about this business model. You're like, I've got 10 minutes till I'm on a Facebook Live. Do you want to know about it now?
I was like,
and he jumped on a Zoom
strap
call.
in.
Put your strapping on. So they did that. And then I walked in again and he's just flapping off next door. I'm like, fucking hell, this guy can talk. And here we are now.
Underwater with a mouthful of marbles, mate.
But yeah, it's so good to get that. So yeah, I know that everyone's sitting there online right now. Patina and Ryan saying hi. Kelly Dolphin's in the house. Kieran very said hi to Dan Beeson. It was just what I needed to hear, mate. Sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in what could happen and lose focus on the here and now. Mate, I loved hearing you say that. Yesterday when we did our end of build coaching, I've done 10 end of build coaching sessions this month.
Yeah, wow.
That's pretty much what
That's
the main
amazing.
thing I do now.
Yep.
If you're a green skin or someone that's not been directly referred to me as an individual, you'll come and be coached by these two guys.
Yep.
And they are more than capable to stand on their own 2 feet and provide you the exact same services, what you're going to get if you were to be coached by me. But now all these people like, Dan and whatever else that I've known over the years, that we're doing an end of build coaching session with them. It's the highest and best use of my time.
Yeah, it is, man.
Because I want to make sure they're being looked after from a long-term point of view. So, good.
GM's in the house and said it's a Gantt chart, mate, not a sync matrix.
I know, right?
Time on
I
Gantt
didn't even know what a bloody Gantt chart was. She's like,
Project management speak there.
Davey Horrell's in the house, mate. I see that everything's ticking over with your property now. We're in a bit of a holding pattern, so just be patient with us there, mate. Karina Bond saying hi as well. Franny Israel. Loving the camera setup. Well done, marketing team.
And Simo said we look good too. I think Dubs has put some filters over the top of us, mate. The anti-wrinkle filter.
By
L'Oreal.
We need it, mate. Yeah.
It's like 3 prunes sitting around here, mate, at the moment.
Speak for yourself, for sure.
Ryan, what about you? Here we go, CJ. We're in our second property build, motoring along with the lovely Fran, keeping on top of everything. Mate, it is.
Yeah,
CJ, it's I just said today, so as a reminder to everyone, every Wednesday or Thursday, depending on my schedule, but generally Wednesdays, the 3 of us as your coaches, drop everything and go and sit with the build support team in the boardroom, big 75-inch screen, and go, right, every single build, we're in there for an hour and a half sometimes.
Yep.
So even though we're not connected with you and we're doing this is nice, Fran, hash and trash of what's going on a day-to-day basis during the build, we are emotionally and mentally connected with your build every single week. And I literally said to Fran today, I'm like, CJ and Sammy, we will go there with their second property. They'll want to walk through the property with us. It won't be the same as when they moved into their own home. It's just literally, and you don't want the emotions to be the same.
Of course.
In fact, you want to have virtually zero emotions attached to this investment property. You just want to know what the numbers are purely. But mate, CJ and Sammy, I can't wait to be there and bloody probably give you another little box of stuff. I don't know. And then bloody congratulate you guys on your second build. It's going to be great. Why wouldn't we bloody do it that way?
I remember having lunch with those two crazy individuals.
Legends.
And those absolute legends. And they were reflecting on where they were when they first met us. Well, I wasn't in the business. Ryan wasn't in the business then. But where they were in terms of, life, understanding where their trajectory was. Very unsure on how things were going to go, and they said, their life could not be any different now in terms of a wealth creation and in terms of security and stability moving forward. Which goes back to what you were saying before with Dan. You put those steps in place, you then give yourself the ability to weather the storms, whatever they look like, whatever the storms look like.
Because they're coming.
They'll come. Believe me. Particularly when you do decide that transition is the option for you, or whether the Defence Force decides that transition is the best option for you. You got to put those steps and measures in place to be able to ride those as they come.
So good. Dave Horrell, thanks, Robbie. Everything's progressing nicely. Look forward to our chat at the end of the build chat. And mate, it'll happen real soon, Dave. Once they get out there and start really getting cracking with the property, you'll be amazed at the progress. Ryan, over to you, mate. How's your month been? Give us some insights into what's been going on in the head and the heart and the hand of Ryan Lewis.
Been a huge month. Yeah, it's always you sit down in a little bit of preparation for this monthly chat and you look back at the coaching sessions, the connection calls you've done, and you go, wow, fuck, I've spoken to a lot of people, and then a lot of people from different varying circumstances.
Because how often does the phone ring in here? If it's not once a day, it's 3 times a week minimum. And I'm not even here very often, and I hear it most days that I come in.
Yep.
And whilst Daniel was there behind there, is like, hi, it's Daniel Property Group here. Axon speaking. Sometimes, no, we pull the piss out of him. Generally, either one of you two, you're going to have your own camera and microphone.
Yeah, I was going to ask if he's going to be able to defend himself.
Good. There you go. So we did that on purpose, mate. It's our fucking show, not yours. But no, invariably, Daniel says, let me go get one of the coaches for you.
Yeah.
And isn't that a bloody thrill to just have... I mean, you've taken heaps of them.
Yeah.
Who do people think we are sometimes? Take people on the journey. And let us clarify about who we are and who we are not.
Generally speaking, most people think we're Dohas.
Right.
Yeah. So they call us up and go, hang on, am I talking to Dohas? No, sorry, mate. But... we can provide you some support and guidance if you need questions around Dohas. But generally speaking, yeah.
Are you guys DHA?
Yeah, DHA or Dohas is
we're
the big ones.
We're not DOS, we're not DHA, we're not Daxon.
But I'm like, that's fucking like old school.
Yeah.
Just pick up the phone and give us a call. Like, there's this thing called Facebook Chat Messenger that you can just drop us a line on that if you need. But yeah, anyway, go ahead, Ryan. Give us an insight into...
Mate, well, I'll start with the heart first. I think there's a few people out there that I've definitely spoken to that went and saw Blink-102 while they were in the country. I did that on Monday night. Bit of a life dream to see those guys live. So that was a big tick for me. But yeah, the coaching sessions that I've had over the last month have been phenomenal. And as I said, you speak to a varying degree of people in certain stages and circumstances of their lives naturally. But yeah, there's a couple that I wanted to kind of bring to people, stories from the trenches, bring to people's living rooms at home. And one that really jumped out at me is a couple that I'm coaching at the moment who want to get into the property market, double defence, are still a little bit away from their deposit and costs as we sit down and do a cash flow analysis and timeline activity that we were talking about before. But one of the people in that relationship's parents have been investing in property for their entire life, and they're in a situation where they own 3 properties outright.
How old's the client that you were talking to?
They're in their late 20s, early 30s.
Okay, so parents are early 50s,
yeah, early 50s. Yep. And because of those steps that they've taken in their careers and early on in their lives, they have come to the planning session, and they're actually sitting down. I'm sitting down with mum and dad on Monday night, and we're going to talk about how mum and dad can help this couple get into the property market because of the decisions and the steps that they took 20, 30 years ago, they've effectively got 3 properties that are unencumbered that they can leverage to get their daughter and son-in-law into the property market.
How much do we see that, mate? Where young couples with, particularly ones with kids that have already got, they've already got the billy lids on the PWAP. That's not the most important place to have your kids, but for us, they're on the PWAP, and that they come to us and say we want to break that cycle, or we want to create that intergenerational wealth. We want to be able to provide not just wealth to our kids, but we want to be able to provide the knowledge and the experience to be able to assist them and guide them through.
Yeah,
it's like I want to give the kids what I didn't get in some cases.
Absolutely.
So yeah, mate, how good.
Yeah,
so I was just thinking about it. The young couple you're speaking to in their 20s.
Yep.
They're going to have the opportunity of passing on their kids' details to Axon.
Yes.
But the parents didn't have that because Axon didn't exist back then.
They
will still be around in fucking 20 or 30 years. Whether I'm behind the microphone or not is another question.
I'll wheel him in a wheelchair, ladies and gents.
I ain't leaving.
I'm fucking leaving. But you think about 20, 30 years ago, there probably wasn't formalised, proper, decent mentoring groups. So certainly what they weren't online.
No.
So, the mum and dads would have had to do everything themselves.
With the good fortune, they've gotten into the property market early, and time has been their best friend, which we talk about. And it's now given them the opportunity to help their kids. And that will just flow, or should flow on, for intergenerational wealth, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
Can I just stop you there, mate? One of my old soldiers has jumped on Shorty. You may remember from my podcast, I spoke pretty candidly about a couple of my diggers that we sat down and spoke to about investing and the requirement to be able to put plans and strategies in place and just do fucking something with your money. Sean Short was one of the fellas that actually took that action, and now he's living such a good life, not as a result of me, as a result of the actions that he took, because I was just a greenhorn in that space at the time. I just knew that it was the right thing to do. You had to do something, and I kind of knew that the property asset class was a good way to do something in a safe way, of course. Shorty did that, and now his family are reaping the benefits of it. So good on you, mate.
Look at that. Luke offered guidance many years ago, couldn't recommend his advice and support anymore. And he's not talking about recommended advice and support from Axon, just you as a GC, as a Bonham Mutt.
Yeah.
A Bonham Mutt here on the Gold Coast, a Bonham Mutt on the GC on the GC.
Good on you, Shorty, mate. It's good to hear from you, buddy.
Hopefully Shorty's having a bit of a laugh about that as well. CJ Wynn said zero emotion other than how grateful we are to everyone at Axon and getting some tenants in. Mate, that's all coming your way, for sure. Look, bloody time. There's a great video that you guys did a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's only out in the last 48 hours or something. It speaks about time. So it's like you've got an opportunity to get started early, or the other option that sort of most people are like, all right, we didn't get started early. We got some kids underway.
Yep.
We decided to grow a family first. Therefore, we're going to wait for the kids to sort of, be of age or get off the balance book, so they're double income, no kids again, and therefore you start in your late 40s or early 50s.
Yep.
The other option, of course, is get started early, pivot towards starting a family, and then pick up your property portfolio from back in the day, and then help your kids as they're going forward.
Yep.
Some clients of ours down in Canberra that I met back in 2018, they've built one investment property with us so far. They already had their own home down in Canberra. They bought probably 20 years ago down in Canberra before the boom. And then a couple of other properties they've got. So the bottom line is they've sort of restructured some of their portfolio. They've got a $3.5 million portfolio.
Wow.
They only owe $500,000 on it.
Wow.
And they've got 96 grand of income from all the rent.
Wow.
And they're living in their own home debt free.
Isn't that
and they're
amazing?
51 and 52 with another 10 years of life and investing under their belt.
Wow. That's incredible.
Because they started early.
Yep.
And still raised a family, and now they're doing their wealth creation again for the last 10 years of their working life. It's really important to know, and I had a great conversation with Matt, helicopter pilot up in Townsville. He's like, but I've started a family now. That was a bit unexpected. I've only got 3 properties. Like, is that going to be enough? I'm like, fuck, mate. It's going to be heaps. Because when your young daughter gets to be 18 and you and your missus, whether you do or don't have another unexpected child, you're going to be able to restart your bloody, your wealth creation again. He's like, I've never actually thought about that before. So you don't only get one bite of the cherry. You can have it multiple, but it's the earlier you start, the better.
Absolutely. ¿Por qué no los dos is what Franny would say.
Por qué no los dos?
That's Spanish, by the way. It's not Portuguese. But why can't we do both?
Yeah, I fucking know, of course. Now, you spoke to someone else that's not got the bank of mum and dad involved. It's also really young.
Yeah, so we've got I've got another person I'm talking about who's talking to at the moment, coaching them through the initial coaching series, and they're 23, 24.
That's really young in my eyes.
Yeah, that's bloody young. And the gent's got 150K in the bank. So, that couple that we were talking about.
Come from DVA or anything?
No. So this bloke he's been in the Defence Force for 4 years. So started relatively young, had some, in his words, no-name jobs before that, but grew up on a farm and just learnt to live within his means from his parents. And then he went overseas, but went overseas on summer camp stuff where he didn't need to spend a lot of money. And he has literally squirreled away every cent since he started working at Woolies at 16. And he's now early 20s with 150K in the bank and looking to get started in property.
I love it.
Yeah.
Who wished they could go back and start that?
Yeah.
Well, we probably wouldn't have as many awesome memories up here. But you know what?
All things I can't remember.
I had 150,000 beers in my belly.
Yeah, phenomenal.
What else you got, man?
Phenomenal. No, that one was, I spent probably the first 20 or 30 minutes of that session in awe, just saying, mate, the decisions you've made up until this point are going to change the trajectory of your life when you're 40 or 50. Just by having the right mindset, squirreling away, living with your means, and then wanting to get started in investing as early as you can. Yeah.
Were you talking to me about you had a client? We sit 1 metre away from each other. At least you guys can see just over there where the little coach's hub is. You were talking about a client who was living reasonably frugally, and then he's got a massive jump in salary, but he's still going to live on the same money. Yeah.
So one of the things that most people in defence get, particularly early on in their career, is guaranteed pay rises. Essentially, like at some point, you are going to, if you choose to go down that path, you are going to jump up in rank. That obviously you are going to go across and up in your pay scales. You're going to get that money coming through the door. I'm coaching a young fella who's 22. And he's walked the path. He's gone through Duntroon, living on his cadet's wage, and was still squirreling away some dollars and cents while he was doing that. Again, I wish I'd done that, but I bloody didn't. And then, excuse me, and then he got himself out of training, so he's hit that end of training requirement. He's now a young officer, hanging out in Brizzy, and you know what? He sat down. He said, "No, I just decided that." I was living on that already. Like, obviously, I'm going to have to pay a bit of rent and stuff, but I was already living pretty comfortably on that. I'm just going to bloody shovel away the rest of my cash. So, it's one of those things, and I'm guilty of it, and, Robbie was laughing at me today. I'm guilty of it as well. When you get more money coming through the door, your cost of living goes up, right? You stop drinking Absolute and you start drinking Grey Goose. But it's one of those things that if you haven't already started generating or haven't already got a plan in place, putting structures and strategies, you're going to be in a position where time's going to pass you by. It's just going to continue to pass you by. And if you don't have those systems and you don't have those goals in place, you're never going to get yourself to a point where you are actually financially free.
Yeah. If Great Northerns are fine, you don't need to upgrade.
I'm not fucking drinking.
You were drinking Great Northerns on Sunday.
I felt it on Monday too, mate. Yes.
Thank you. We gave level 3 of Chateau Le Tourneau a bit of a hit out on Sunday afternoon watching the Volkanovski fight.
Luke's apartment.
Yeah, almost. So what happens when you get there at 10:30 and leave at 11:30 p.m.
Yeah, it wasn't an hour visit, I promise you.
Speaking about time, we had a wonderful opportunity to have Jace come and join us in the studio.
Yeah. Isn't he a weapon?
Fucking oath. Jace Cosgrove from Your Wealth Corporation. Like, we're in here shooting content and videos and short reels and hopefully funny stuff and Mythbusters and crap that people listen to, right? I call it crap. Sure. I know.
We've got a good one coming up next week. You probably saw your calendars. Another piece of content. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we have to. Fuck, I'll be crook that day. We pour our heart and souls into these videos and try and pass on like little mini versions of this. Really, what's going on in the property space? We get like 1,500 views, 2,000 views, all that sort of stuff. Jace Cosgrove comes in, starts talking about bloody the power of time and the power of money and the power of being smart with your wealth creation. It's like 15,000, 16,000 views straight away.
Yep. Yeah, man.
He's really fucking good looking and I am really not. But you know what? People are what we've been talking about now, getting started early and having time on your side is such a powerful motivator for so many people.
Yep.
But it's the boring end of the curve as well, though, right?
Yeah.
So old Love's bloody family, who's got 3 properties,
I
bet they didn't know that fast forward 25 years, they were going to have $2 million property
Yeah,
portfolio,
about 2 million.
3 properties just on average,
Yep.
with no debt against it.
debt.
It's taken a long time to get there.
Yep.
But you got to be able to have that focus, and you got to be in it for the very, very long run.
Yeah, get yourself to that tipping point. Ride out the bumps, ride out the bruises. Get yourself to the tipping point where it just shifts, where you go from that boring end of the curve, and you start to see, the rents catch up. Of course, they overtake the mortgage repayments. You get to a position where you're experiencing that growth, that compounding growth over time, and it just is a tipping
snowball.
point.
Yep.
It's if you haven't experienced it before, ladies and gents, to know that you've got an asset. I'm talking about an investment property, an asset which is going up in value. Between the tenant and the taxman, they're paying the majority of the mortgage, and then you've got to sort of tip in the rest to make sure that all the costs are being covered, property management fees, insurances, rates, etc., etc. And if the property goes up in value 50 grand a year, 50 grand in 1 year, you haven't needed to be deployed or face danger or spend time away from your family. And you're 50 grand better off. It's a fucking great feeling, let me tell you.
It is.
And
It absolutely
and
is.
it can get way more than 50 in 1 year too,
of
by the way.
course. Yep.
Now, that's only if you buy in the right areas.
Yep.
I recently sold one of the first properties I ever bought back in 2012.
How'd that go,
I
bro?
fucked up the numbers. I thought I bought it for 560 and sold it for 560. I bought it for 580 and sold it for 560.
Oof.
No capital gains tax.
Well, that's true. But remember, you only pay tax if you make money. I lost money. So at least now I'll pay a little bit less tax. But yeah, what a fucked experience that was. Bloody having a property for 12 years and it went back in value by 20 grand.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But there wasn't an Axon that existed back then. And I just got sold the property by a property shark, et cetera, et cetera. So it can go tits up if you don't get it right.
And we're both living proof of that. We've both, I've spun that narrative a number of times. We're both living proof of getting it wrong in the first instance, and then, having to tuck our tail between our legs and put our hand up and be humble enough to say, give us a hand.
I always said it's when that property eventually goes back to what I bought it for, I'm going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I fell 20 grand short, but I'm like, fucking, it's good enough. I can't
enough.
be bothered throwing $4 grand a month at it to keep it alive.
Yeah.
I'm just got rid of it. See you later. So, what Jace also spoke about, and I won't go through it now because there's been a question that's come our way a little bit over the last few months really, is, I want to buy a property in a trust or a company.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he went through that little video. So, go back through our Facebook page. I'm pretty sure, Daniel, that one's been posted already, hasn't it? Yeah. Yep. So go back and listen to that. But most importantly, what we did is that whilst Jace was here, we did a off-camera, like in-camera but not live video that effectively, it's like the introduction to Jace at Your Wealth Corporation for the accountancy stuff. But he's one of the very rare people, of course, who's an accountant, but is also a licensed financial planner / financial advisor. So for all of our current clients, you're going to get a copy of that video so as you can remind yourself how important it is in the lead up to this year's tax return to make sure you get your taxes buddy sorted out. But then also there's another element, and it's the most important element of what Jace does because it talks about the power of time, the software modeling program, the boring end of the curve, the actions you're taking now. What does that look like when you want to retire? Yep. It is a no-brainer that every single one of you have that consult with him and find out whether that software modeling program is going to work for you. Because all this other stuff we're talking about is quite frankly fluff on the fucking table if you don't actually have proper steps in place and a visionary board and get together a couple of times a year to make sure about whether you're on track or not.
And when you apply that curve and that modelling that he does, and you overlay that with your property acquisitions and your sync matrix or your Gantt chart, thank you, Tammy, it provides that extra level of clarity and the trajectory of, okay, we're going to do this because we've got to get to that point by, if we want to retire at 50 or 55 or 60.
We don't need that 90 grand car right now.
Yep.
We don't need that fucking $70,000 caravan. It's not going to it's going to make the curve dip, not keep on the same trajectory.
And you talk about fluff on the table. I'll tell you, this is all it is all fluff on the table if you're talking about concepts and stuff like that. So one of the things I don't even think you know about yet is we're going to do a little bit of a collab with Jace as well as a part of our newsletter that goes out. So this was Kieran's idea. We're going to get a little bit of a budgeting calculator and a budgeting tool out there. So Jace is going to nug down for us and put one of those together. It's simple to understand and that sort of stuff. It's going to help you hold yourself accountable to get yourself to the start line. Because if you can't get yourself there, you're certainly not going to find yourself being financially free down the track. So look out for that in the newsletter, to come in the next couple of weeks.
See, Shawnee just said he's got to bounce. Keep doing
Catch you, brother.
God's work. I thought he said great work. There's not much of God's work going on here, champion. There's fucking
fair bit of Satan.
Yeah.
We'll just had Genevieve Gaylor say, podcast 69 was great. When's the next one coming out? I believe that's coming out tomorrow, Dubs.
Yeah, so let's talk about that quickly. You and I did it. You were
sick in air quotes. Yeah.
Crook.
Oh, come on, fellas.
After having a quiet weekend Bucks party down in Sydney.
Yeah, I got the spicy cough.
Anyway, Ryan jumped in. Mate, well done on the podcast.
Thanks, mate.
It's a different environment to be in. Similar to this, not as high energy, not live. Although we only take one take. I don't think we've done very little bloody stop, pause, rewinds in podcasts. They just happen.
Just a little bit of polishing on the edges. That's the only editing.
A lot.
Of us.
For me, yeah.
But, mate, it was with a guy by the name of Glenn, hey?
Glenn Marshall, from AMS Group. So very, very interesting chap. And we talk about this in the podcast that when Dubs was organising him as a guest, he was really reluctant because he thought he was a very boring person and didn't have much to tell people. And we said, look, mate, every veteran has a story, and we assure you that something in your story is going to resonate with someone. And I sat there for, it was an hour podcast. I sat there for probably 40 minutes with my mouth open, just listening intently, because the story that he's got and the journey he's been on and to get where he is now is phenomenal. Yeah,
CEO of a high-end, mission-focused capability group for maritime and government areas. Is bloody phenomenal. So he's a CEO of like 350 odd people. It was only about 75 people 2 years ago when he took over. So he's a real bloody mover and shaker. Jesus. So mate, he's a fucking weapon. So yeah, definitely get that podcast under your belt, ladies and gents. Thanks Jen for even saying that it was like half decent. We never know. Like it's one of the things I'm like, hey, welcome to another cracking episode. I'm like, well, I fucking hope it's going to be cracking. I don't actually know whether it's going to be cracking. But no, Daniel does some fantastic, filtering on that sort of stuff to make sure that we have the right people come along to the podcast there.
Yep.
Then yesterday, you and I did another one.
We did, mate.
And it was so different to any other podcast we've done. And it was done via Zoom. Yep. So we've been very fortunate to have the majority of people come into the office, into the office studio, which is great. But we spoke to Hayley over in Adelaide. It was cool, hey?
Yeah, Defence
from Defence Kids.
Yeah, wow.
As a father yourself, what did you take away from that?
Mate, I love the fact, we spoke through her journey and that sort of stuff. We took her on the usual story arc of who are you, where did you grow up, that sort of stuff. So you get a bit of an insight into who's speaking to you and you obviously build a little bit of a connection with them there. I love the fact that she saw a gap in something that wasn't necessarily a market. Like, at no point in time did she talk about, applying herself to a business or a concept to make money. And in fact, it was the complete opposite of that. But she saw a need for a portion of the defence community, being defence kids, that was probably lacking. And what didn't see any official capacity to be able to bridge that gap. So she just fucking dove in and did it, mate. She just, found a way to be able to explain things to her own daughter about, dad being away and how important it was, the work that he did, and found a way to communicate that to kids, and then it just took off.
Wow.
So it's really cool. I'm looking forward to all of you out there listening to that one.
Yeah, which is like I'm having trouble explaining to my young children why daddy's not here.
Why
does he need to go away?
Wow,
mate, it's an absolute cracker.
And I'll tell you, after I was having a chat to the girls out in the team, and I overheard someone asking Caitlin. They said, did you had those books, didn't you? And she said, yeah, we did. And did it actually help? And Caitlin said, yeah, it actually did, because it gave their young daughter an ability to tell other people. So more than just sitting down and communicating with mum about dad being away, but it gave her an ability to explain to other people what dad's doing, where dad is, and how important the work that dad is doing, for Australia, for security and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was really, really cool.
It was really bloody cool.
Caitlin's just jumped on. Best books ever. Was definitely helpful for our kids.
Yeah. So we're now just in initial consultations to work out how we can do more of a sort of joint venture with her. And so it's going to be great to make sure that all of you, as our Axon clients, how we can incorporate the sourcing of a book that comes your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a bloody no-brainer.
We had a bit of a chuckle about that, mate, afterwards. I think it was Dubs and I were having a chuckle like, oh, Robbie's signing Tamara up to things again.
I said to her, I was like, the general manager doesn't know about this at the moment. But you know what? I was thinking before, you didn't come to me and go, oh, hey, we've got this new bloody budget calculator we want to put online.
Yeah, of course.
I don't fucking need to be I know that the decisions that everyone makes in this business are congruent and aligned with why we exist.
Yep.
you don't need to come and get my approval.
Yeah.
If it's a good idea and it's going to help other people's experiences of, using us, just get it done.
Yeah,
I was today years old when I found out about this. So it's totally fine. And I'm stoked that you guys bloody did it, which is really good. What else for you, mate? What other crazy ass clients?
I've had some really complex ones from all different facets. So from all different facets, complex in terms of individuals' financial structures being complex. They're in great positions. They've got a bunch of cash, but they've just got it, organised in very convoluted and not the best way. So taking them through that and getting them to explain that the logic behind things and digesting what that looks like. This young couple, they're actually good friends of mine. As Ryan knows, most of the people that I coach are good friends of mine.
That's what keeps his stats up. I've got another lead coming in. Oh yeah, I knew this guy from back in the day. I went to school with this guy.
But so what they're jealous of is all of my clients become good friends of mine anyway. So
that's true. That's true.
Taking that young couple through and young fellows now medically discharged from the military. We had good money habits. His partner has good money habits. They obviously got some support from DVA to recognise his injuries and help him through the rest of his life. So we're now putting a plan and a strategy in place for him and his partner to be able to secure their first investment whilst they continue on enjoying and living their life. Another one that I had is also a good friend of mine, surprise, Liam and his lovely wife. They've come to us. They've sort of towards the back end, not back end, but starting to move towards the consideration for retirement.
Was that Liam that I met up in Townsville?
Yeah, it was, mate.
Yeah. He's a character.
He's an absolute legend of a bloke. I've got some very, very...
And I love it. Was he a senior NCO, junior NCO with you?
He was not one of mine, but one of the other sergeants in the company.
Yeah, and mate, good on you for being an officer who can obviously generate and create and embrace and can have that long-term connection with someone.
But good people are good people, man. Yeah. Regardless of the rank they wear, regardless of the walk of life they come from or going to, good people are just fucking good people.
All the officer words they use, yeah.
No, so he and his wife have put themselves in a very, very advantageous, in a very good position, where they've done a bit of investing. It didn't quite go as well as they wanted it to over the years, but it didn't set them back. So they're in a position now where they've been able to sort of restructure, and they know they've got time on their side to get it right, but they don't have time on their side to get it wrong. And so they know that they want to put the steps and plans in place to be able to do that. And that comes back to what we were talking about before, about intergenerational wealth. Like, they want the ability to be able to support their kids, which was really moving. They had that pretty front and center in their goals that they'd established to be able to, provide their kids with that support when they do decide to, or when Liam decides to kick them out. And then... What was it? What else have I had, mate? I've had a pretty big couple of weeks with coaching. I've had probably up there with one of my most complex coachings, and this is one that I'm probably going to hang my hat on, now that we're sort of getting to the point of starting to get the clarity in place to be able to make some really well-informed decisions. A family, did an acquisition to be able to get themselves over the speed bumps of the position that they were in at that point in time, and they just took the steps that were necessary to make sure that the sister was able to stay in her.
So when you say a family, a brother and a sister,
brother and sister, were able. Thanks for clarifying that, mate. We're able to stay in their own home, which of course is why we do this, right? That security to be able to put roofs over our heads is why we do it. That's run its course, and now we're in a position where we need to get an understanding of how we're going to move forward from a wealth creation model to be able to do that, to allow them to be able to move forward, because they were both feet stuck in the mud. They certainly weren't going to be able to progress unless we did some structures and restructuring and strategizing on that place. So is a really complex one, and they're the ones that I enjoy the most. Though, if someone comes to us with 150 grand, like Ryan only takes whales, if someone
alley oops,
alley oops, Ryan only takes the alley oops.
That coaching was easy. Deb came back with an easy BC report. There you go, team, go find a property.
Yeah, Ryan just comes out dusting his shoulders off. They're the ones that I love the most, though, because they're the ones where you're really on your toes and you're really thinking through the complex outcomes, and that's the one that people get the most out of, because they sit there and they go, fuck, how did you come up with, like, we would not have even considered this going through this, because, you know, the skills, knowledge and experience that, you know, I learned from you, that I learned from you every day, and I learned from the rest of the team and on getting ourselves here, we're able to pass that on, and we're able to assist people in making those decisions along their journey.
And
does that mean you've stopped learning from me? He said, learn from you, learn from you every day.
Nah, not yet. Nah. Yeah. Walk your words, Millwood.
Fucking hell. You're still here, mate. You just put a time on it.
Yeah. He uses that to hit me when I do the wrong thing.
That's my paddle.
That's a paddling.
But I think, being able to sit there and objectively analyse a person's situation,
Yeah.
you're not drawn into it necessarily emotionally to start with, and you can say, hey, have you considered this? Have you thought about this? What are the second order effects of this decision?
Yeah.
And people go, yeah, fuck, didn't think of that. Wow,
That non-emotional but
Yeah, wow.
actively caring viewpoint on things, there's always going to be blind spots.
Yeah.
When you're creating something, especially with family. And can I say, doing a family acquisition is a really, really good idea. If you can't buy a property by yourself and your brother or sister can't buy a property by themselves, that means no one's buying a property.
Yep.
Why not join forces, buy the property together, have that mutual benefit come your way, and then basically at least there's a property in the family in some way, shape or form. But you must have an agreed exit strategy.
Yes.
There will come a time in your life where it'll evolve, where you'll need to be able to cut one of you away or sell the property or restructure or whatever that's going to look like. And that's where you need to, you know, obviously sit with someone who has that non-emotive but caring, you know, objectivity there. That is very, very rare for a brother and sister or any family members to buy properties and keep them for an inordinately long period of time. Because you'll meet a partner and they'll be like, because you've got a property with your brother or your sister, we can't now buy a property together. You need to unfuck that, love, so then we can now, you know, continue to, you know, grow our portfolio or whatever it's going to be.
Just let it run once it's met its purpose.
Correct. Once it's met its purpose and there is a significant change in circumstances in place, and therefore the agreed contingencies, that is an officer word, but the agreed...
my hand was on the buzzer, mate.
The agreed events that might take place or the conditions that will be there for us to go, right, we're now going to restructure this property. So it's a really good, healthy conversation to have up front.
Must have conversation.
Must
Absolutely.
have. But Luke, I love what you were just talking about then about making minor tweaks to one's structure can make all the difference.
Oh, man.
This is what I love about being a coach. Even I love everything about being a coach, but like I'm probably in the office 2.5 to maybe 3 days a week. But as soon as I come in here and sit over there, like we're like in a little, you know, sort of triangle, all we're doing is like, what about this call? Like we're giving each other hot wash debriefs of calls we all did the night before. Because all of us are on calls every single night, right? And whether that's a end of build coaching session all the way to an initial coaching session or connection call, whatever it's going to be. But you said to me that you had a really good conversation with one of the clients, and she's like, I want to buy another property. But once you dug into her circumstances, it actually wasn't about that. So some tweaks to her structure is now the focus.
Yeah, ultimately for that one, it was unknowingly she was at risk of being able to hold the property that she bought as her PPOR. By her own words, she bought that property after a couple of bottles of red, no joke, which is incredibly, risky at best.
Maybe a little silly. But
yeah, we've put a plan and a strategy, and we're, in the first coaching session or second coaching session, I said to this lady, we're not even going to be talking about an investment property. We're going to focus on you and your PPOR and make sure that you've got a nice buffer so that you're risk mitigated and be able to hold this property long term. And that is looking at cash flow analysis, looking at the structure of the loan that she had in place, and just looking at what does her life look like for the next 5 to 6 years.
Especially when it's the roof over your head. Sure, you want to be able to put the right structure in place so you don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg, like you said before, Luke. But when it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs of you having a roof over your head, you've got to get this stuff wired tight. How was she because she approached us with all guns blazing.
Big goals.
That's my observation. Going, I want to be able to buy another property and have the Axon help me with it. It's actually not going that direction though.
Big goals of a portfolio, and then as we were talking about before, big goals of a portfolio so that she can help her daughter one day when she's old enough to get into the property market. But ultimately, we needed to focus on the 10-metre target, which was that PPOR, and even little strategies like, have you heard about an offset? get that in place to start working for you to reduce the interest that you're paying on your non-tax deductible loan. She went, wow, never heard of that.
Yep.
Oof.
And it was, when we showed her the, real-time numbers that she would be saving over the life of a loan, that was she went, holy shit, this is the value of that alone for me has been amazing.
Yeah, mate, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're able to, you got to read the temperature of the call, don't you?
Of course, mate. And
the majority of people watch our videos and see us, they're like, right, I want to learn more about these bullfeds and like have a bit of a chat or whatever else. And they get excited about growing a portfolio. Did I hear you say single mum before?
Yeah, single mum.
Especially more difficult single mum.
Yeah.
Yep.
Single parent, I should say. And that's not placing any other perception on your ability to single parent or not. It's just the way the banks look at it.
Exactly.
It's just going to be limited.
Yep.
You've got an extra mouth to feed and less of an income and a higher cost of living, etc. Mate, it's so good that we're able to make sure that we disregard what potential that client could have working with us to buy another property and actually focus on them and their current structure.
Yep. Yeah, man.
Mate.
Yeah. I've had a couple.
I didn't know the depths of that story.
Yeah.
Surface level, hey, quick hot wash, no worries. Ryan, I'm fucking bored, I'm going to go get a brew, whatever. But no, it's fucking cool. It's really cool to know. Like there's another example of care. Like we get no benefit
Fucking
out of that apart from doing the right thing.
Helping someone,
No brainer.
keep a roof over their head. It's one of the most powerful coaching sessions that I've had was help that couple with 3 kids who were thought they were in dire straits, that they weren't going to be able to hold on to their property. And it was a really pretty early telling sign for me, when I said to Robbie, mate, I think I'm going to have to spend some time with these people. Like, I think it's going to take a little bit of time to unpick it. He goes, go and fucking do it. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. We're here to empower. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah. In fact, there's been, actually, I just want to break segment. Zachy Jordan, mate, thanks so much for jumping on, mate. G'day, lads. And everyone else, property through you guys a couple of years ago, still kicking ass through equity and growth. Couldn't be happier. Mate,
Awesome,
I'm so
man.
happy that you're
Awesome.
happy, Zach. That's bloody excellent, mate. Thanks so much for passing that on. Patina Ryan said, I'm pretty sure we were at version 11 or 12 for our plan on the last check. Speaking about people that were not in a very good position when they first come to see us, there's fucking clarity right there.
I reckon they are now, though.
So, yeah, they're absolutely bloody kicking ass now, which is gold. So I spoke about the Buddy podcast. That was an absolute ripper. I've got a bunch of clients that I'm speaking to at the moment that are in the build of their first property or second property, and they're like, "This is going so well, but let's use the last 3 or 4 months of the current build to our favour, and let's now put a plan in place in the use of concurrent activity to basically go right. As soon as this build is done, as soon as I've got tenants in, I've probably already dropped an EOI, give all the paperwork to Deb, rental income from number one." Or current property being built, and the rental income for the next property being built, buddy, bang,
Slap
away you go,
some
get your
yeah.
finance and away you go. So, it's just really, really cool to know that people are not just going, oh, cool, I'm just waiting for this current property to be built, and then I might think about it next time. So it's almost like they're bringing forward their end of build coaching.
Yep.
It's a mid-build coaching session to go, let's put a plan in place from a J35 point of view, future ops, for those that don't know that. And it's just so good that people are leaning forward.
It is, man. Yeah, I love it.
And they're all in their 20s.
Yep.
And they're all just going, let's get this buddy Jared McCracken. So good. I feel like we've done a bunch of talking tonight, which is totally fine. I've a bunch of comments coming through there on the chat. Let's sort of reserve this last 5 minutes or so. Let us know what's going on in your world. Like, what's some of the perceptions that people have got? What do people think? What's going on in the macro economy? I tell you what, Tam and I went to the Pink concert last night.
Knew you were going to say this today, mate. What'd you wear? What did you wear, mate?
A pink and orange shirt, because everyone else had something pink on. I would have looked stupid if I was not in pink.
Like a bunch of pink lemmings, mate, walking into the stadium.
Yeah, mate. And it wasn't an 18 plus event. There was like 1-year-old kids there, all the way up to
51-year-old blokes.
51-year-old kids
in pink.
in various states of inebriety. That's a new word, I'll probably sure. Right, thanks, Sarge.
I'm still inebriated.
So that was really weird to have young children at a music festival where everyone half Shanghai. So there's no cost of living issues here on the Gold Coast. There was 60,000 people at the Pink show. On average, $250, $300 a ticket. Ours are a little bit more because we are seated.
Yep.
I've moved past fucking being in the
General
bleachers.
admission.
I still have to sit in the cheap seats, mate.
But it's fucking $14 for a pie that was warming up in the oven. Fucking $12 for a beer, $6.50 for a water. It was just bloody, I'm sure there are people that are really, really struggling, but there's a lot of people out there splashing a lot, spending a lot of money on, this fully just going to a concert is a disposable income event.
It is, mate, absolutely.
And it was just fascinating to see because we're in this space going, borrowing capacity reports, interest rates, financial structure, what can we do? Getting family involved, making sure that we can sort of coach people from a financial perspective to get ahead. And there's some other people out there just fucking waxing
Throwing
money
cash.
left, right, and centre.
Going nuts.
So it was an interesting little observation. So I'd love to know, what's everyone else's thoughts around, do you watch what the RBA is doing every couple of months? Do you listen to the Senate estimates? Do you understand sort of what's going on in the macro sort of global economic and industry factors there? Because if you want to get into the property market or you are in the property market, you should have an interest in what's going on with the overall situation.
Yeah, man. So whilst we're waiting for those to come through, one of the things that I've noticed is, as we're going through the rock and roll, the bumps of COVID and the building industry and that real shock of hit with the supply chain price rises and that sort of stuff. Of course, we saw a bunch of those building companies that couldn't sustain themselves. Now that happens in every single industry. Every single industry, of course, there's a significant impact when a building company goes under. But the media absolutely went into a frenzy. It was like someone threw pink bait into a pink concert, mate. I don't know. It was just the media went ape shit over it, and probably rightly so as well. What I'm still seeing though is a trend of that being the flavour of the month with the media. So every industry has companies that are going to go under, whether they're poorly managed, whatever that looks like. I'm still seeing it hit the headlines as soon as a builder looks like they're starting to shake, or as soon as they start to look like there might be some legal issues. It's still all plastered all over the news. From my perspective, what I'm seeing, particularly with our builders, of course, we know we work with very reputable builders and they're very safe and secure. What I'm seeing though is there's a massive normalisation of that space. We're certainly seeing the prices that they've levelled out over time. We're seeing those builds be consistent. The build times are coming down, which means for me that's a pretty clear indicator of stability in the industry. And we work across multiple locations, so it's not just in the one area that we work in. And we're seeing that across those multiple locations, across multiple builders. So for me, mate, in terms of market wide, I'm seeing stability in the industry.
That said, there's still some mistakes that are being made out there.
Of course.
There's wrong fucking coloured kitchen cupboards that get put in.
Yep.
There's the carpet's not available anymore. Yep. There's still humans in the loop,
error,
and there are multiple other suppliers that need to be synchronised at that perfect bloody time to come in there and put stuff in, and then they got to hand make it and do all that stuff.
Thousands of handmade pieces.
Yeah, so it's a very, very tricky space to be in sometimes, and certainly I just want to remind everyone, if you go and visit your property and it's not been fully handed over and multiple agencies have gone in there and said there's nothing wrong, don't criticise unfinished work. Yeah. So, go and check out your house and go and make sure it's all fine. But unless it's perfect and unless someone has told you it's totally finished, walk past it all and just come back and you can criticise the shit out of it when someone said this is now ready for handover.
There was a really good question in there, mate, about negative gearing. That's a cracker, mate. Thank you.
It's been a prevalent one with a couple of people I've spoken to over the last couple of weeks of, asking us, what do we think it's going to happen? Is the government going to go after negative gearing? And as Dave's asked, what's potentially going to be the implications?
Let's just define negative gearing first.
Sure.
So effectively, it is a tax policy that says that if you have an income-producing asset like an investment property or a business, you are able to write off all of the cash deductions, that's interest on a loan, rates, insurances, etc., and all the non-cash deductions on your depreciation, that you can write all that off against your individual tax return. And if it happens to be in a negative space, that's called negative gearing. All right, so it's a tax policy that we're talking about as opposed to some other crazy bloody buzzword. Crystal clear on that?
Yeah.
I know you guys are. Sorry. Crystal clear on that. I just touched all of your shoulders. Crystal clear on that, too. Because it is a term that's bandied around. I think it's used interchangeably and not accurately sometimes.
I think I was reading an interesting article from an economist on the Sydney Morning Herald last week around if the government start focusing on negative gearing, it's a very short-sighted thing, for lack of a better term. And if we step back and look at it and go, okay, the majority of property investors in Australia are people that are thinking about their retirement. They don't want to be on the government pension, and they don't necessarily trust or think that they're going to have enough in their super, and they recognise the power and value of the Australian property market. And you sit back and look at it and go, okay, if we start going after negative gearing now, we might save ourselves, us being the government, a few bucks now, but what does it mean for these people when they hit pension? How much money are we actually going to save when these people may not have investment properties when they retire, and they're going to be relying on the government pension or the super and whatever their super looks like. So for me, it's a very short-sighted thing. I don't know. We don't have the crystal ball, right? It could be a political stunt. I think the Greenies are pushing it the most at the moment. I don't,
because there's nothing else to push.
I don't necessarily believe that it will occur, but again, that's just me having an opinion that I should probably sit on.
That's awesome. That's one part of it. You go. And then
for me, I think one of the biggest outcomes of it, the outcomes are unknown because they can be so many. Like there can be some pretty significant outcomes from it, but I think it would be very irresponsible of them, and I don't think they would actually do this to retrospectively disallow negative gearing. I think it'll be a case where they'll say if it does occur, it'll be a line in the sand, and they'll say right from here on in, we're not going to do that. But as the construction industry makes up sort of over 10% of the Australian economy, we're in a position where it would have a substantial impact, and I don't know if they've got the capacity to be able to forward plan what that would look like. So it's a great question. I don't think the Labor government knows what the impact will fully be. Certainly, I don't know if we could sort of quantify it in a really efficient way.
Thanks, fellas, for your insights. For any assessment on any commodity, on any performance of any market, it comes down to two things: supply and demand. Is there a housing shortage or a housing glut right now in Australia? A massive housing shortage.
Huge.
Property investors make up at least half of the property market, because all those people that can't afford to live in their own home, where are they going to live? They need someone else's investment property to live in as a tenant. If you dissuade property investors by taking away all of the tax benefits that go into buying an investment property, why the fuck would they want to buy that asset class?
Of course.
So it crushes the biggest issue right now, which is housing access and housing affordability.
Supply.
So, Dave, it is a no deal. It's very strongly from us, based on three very different perspectives, but hopefully you've now got the complete picture on the likelihood of the government saying, let's take away the ability for people to create wealth in their lifetime by not allowing them to be able to claim all of the cash and non-cash deductions again. It's fucking stupid, quite frankly. Albo, I know you're listening. All right,
got a bone to pick with you, mate.
But no, he's on board, mate. He knows, and think about how many of the politicians down in Canberra own investment properties. How many of them are going to go, here's all my tax back? No worries. No, sir.
There'd be a lot of infighting in Parliament House, mate.
Margie Grunsel says she positively gears. Well, you've got to be able to. These are the factors that go into whether your property is going to be positively geared or not. How much you've borrowed, what interest rate you are paying on that, and how much rental income you are getting. So to be in a positively geared space right now, as opposed to 2.5 years ago where interest rates were very, very low, you need to have a very small amount of debt and a very high amount of rent coming in. Otherwise, you're more than likely going to be negatively geared. Now, the cash flow analysis of that is once you inject your big tax return back in, go back and watch those videos with Jace Cosgrove, 8, 9, 10, 15,000 bucks of people now getting back in their tax return. Once you've got the tax return coming back in, you'll either sit neutrally geared, negatively cash flow, or maybe neutral cash flow, negative cash flow, or maybe even positive cash flow. But look, at the end of the day, when you're in your accumulation phase, you don't need to be $30 a week positively geared.
No. Nope.
Who gives a fuck if you're $100 a week negatively geared or even negatively cash flow? It's all about having the right structure in place to be able to still hold those assets.
Long game.
When you have got your own 24-year-old children that need you in the future to say, I'm so fucking glad, Mum and Dad. They probably wouldn't say that exactly. I'm so glad, Dad, that you worked with Axon back when you were 24 years old and you've had a couple of properties under your belt because I'm now going to get access to shit.
That'll be you, Aiden.
All right, Davey Hall, great macroeconomic discussion. Thanks for the insights. That's what Steve, when our gear our retirements awards, boom, boom, boom. All right, that's it. 1 hour of power. Jeez, it goes fast, doesn't it?
Flies by.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Awesome. See you guys again next month. As always, reach out to us if you need anything. We're here for you.
If you've got any questions in the meantime as well, feel free, and you want us to answer it on here or answer it in any other method, let us know. Just bloody reach out.
I was going to say, and if you're watching the replay, just tap your question inside the chat box there. We'll get notified of it, and we'll get back to you straight away. Have a great night. See you later.